Hey, what's going on, Internet? Tim Blast here. As you may know right now, I just started a new podcast called the BlastCast, where I will be having conversations with music producers, actors, directors, so anybody who is involved in film production and video games, and anything related to that. So I just had my first episode where I spoke to my buddies Ryan and Justino. They are video game composers. And it was a fun little talk. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty in the first 5 minutes of the podcast where the audio wasn't recording. So I'm going to start the video from the moment that the audio was actually working. The reason why I'm doing these podcasts is to provide little inside information for the people who are starting out in film industries or like music production. And, it's always fun to talk to peers and colleagues and share funny stories. So there we go. This is the first episode of the BlastCast. Enjoy. Okay, and guys in the chat, can you see if, can you hear everybody now?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, they can hear you.
Whoa. Okay.
Yes, they can hear you. Yay, it worked. Perfect.
Nice. Good job.
Okay, thank you, Sherva in the chat for letting us know that. Okay, so now we can talk. Yes. So we're talking about music instruments and stuff like that. So why don't you guys tell me, like, how old were you when you started playing musical instruments?
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
I started kind of late, actually. I mean, compared to a lot of my piano friends, I started at I was almost 13, I think, when I started piano.
All right.
Yeah. Which is pretty late compared to most of my piano friends who started like at age 4 or 5.
Yeah, so, I always feel like it's like when you start when you're a baby like that, like 4 or 5 years old. I mean, you kind of get bored of it.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. It can happen.
Yeah. What about you, Justino?
Mine's a little more complicated. I technically started when I was in 4th grade public school music, about 10 years old, but I only played for 4th and a little bit of 5th, and then I moved to a district without music, and then it started again until I was 17.
Oh wow!
So there's a big old chunk in there that was missing that I wasn't playing, but I did have that little bit of background when I was a kid.
That's good. Yeah, I think I started when I was 14, maybe. So I kind of started late as well.
Yeah.
When I was little, I always hated the music theory. So, like, I always found it like the most boring thing in the world, and just like I just never wanted to learn how to like properly write and read music.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm still struggling. I actually didn't study like, in like music, anything like. But yeah, like I started playing when I was maybe like 14. That's when I got my first guitar, and it took me a while. I don't know, to like get used to it. But then like once I started playing like 6 hours a day, like I think I got it in about 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I switched to piano, switched to like all the flutes and drums and stuff like that, bass. Yeah. That was kind of fun. So you guys studied together, right? Didn't you?
Yeah, we went to Humboldt State University together, and yeah, we studied music there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm like, was I 2 years ahead of Ryan? Something like that.
I mean, you graduated my first year, so.
Oh, okay, so it was in 1 year.
Like
okay.
3 or 4 years ahead of me.
Yes, I was quite a bit ahead of him.
Yeah.
So I took piano lessons with the same teacher as him, even though I was a newbie on piano. She said she saw something in me, which I guess was for being able to rip my heart out every single week for 30 minutes and destroy my goals of being a musician.
That's funny.
Definitely. Are we allowed to legally say her name? Shout out to our piano teacher friend. So my first piece of music she had me play was the E minor Chopin Etude, the really easy one, which was pretty hard for a first piece of music. It's really common for piano players. And then my second piece of music was Opus 18 Schoenberg.
Oh, wow.
And she just went from like level 10 to level 99 immediately. And then I would go after having practiced 6-7 hours a day to be able to play this piece. And she, tell me, you didn't practice. What are you doing? Why do you even show up? And I'm saying, I practice so much. Why did you give me this awful piece of music? But that's how we knew each other, because we had a piano seminar.
Okay.
He would play, and I would. Did I play the Schoenberg while you were there, or was that the year before you were there?
Yeah, I remember the piece.
Oh, wow.
So that's true story. He can vouch for it.
That's funny. I think the first thing I learned on the piano was, I think it was Full Elise. I think that's what it was. It's like, that's what everybody is, everybody knows. Yeah, exactly, yeah. I don't remember how old was I. I think it was before I even started playing the guitar. Things like we had a piano in our school, and, I just like picked it up by ear, because everybody knows this melody, and it's just like, it's a everybody knows this stuff.
It's a pretty simple theme.
Yeah.
Well, the first section of it is. But...
Yeah. Let's see. In the chat, they say music theory is like grammar. You obviously know how to talk, but at some point you still need to learn it. Agree to disagree, and I don't know.
So here's the thing with music theory and how it worked out for me is when I went to college, I've been back in music for about a year.
Yeah.
And I still didn't know what I was doing. I technically went to study marine biology.
Mm-hmm.
I was still taking some music classes, and they really needed string players. I played in the orchestra. It was very soon that I decided that I wanted to switch to music theory or music major. But when I was a music major, even if I was good for how long I was playing, I was still very, very far behind. And it wasn't until that I took my first theory class that I finally reached a point where I was on the same level as everyone else, because no one else had that background in music theory. So I was caught up in my first subject. And once we started talking about chords and we started talking about, the piano, all of a sudden things started clicking for the first time.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't really do well in school in high school. I did really bad in high school, barely made it into college. And for things to finally click for me, it was just this huge eye-opener. It was just mind-blowing. I actually got good at something for the first time in my life. Because I was okay at playing. When I say okay, I was okay for Humboldt State, which their string players are not comparable to the rest of the music world. But it was for the first time I had that fire burn for music, because our music theory just finally allowed me to feel like I was a real musician. It allowed me to say I'm good at something. Or in this case, it was like, hey, I'm better than everyone else at something. And I didn't realize until later that music theory would lead into composition, because that's what you do when you like music theory most of the time.
Yeah. Like for me, like music theory, as I said, was boring subject when I was in school. But then when I started working, as a film composer, like my first gig, I worked on this film called Born Wild back in like 2014, I believe. And yeah, like I remember, like I didn't really know much about music theory, and I didn't really know much about orchestrations and stuff like that. They kind of just got me by chance. It was like a friend of mine producing the film and acting in the film as well. And they were like, hey, Tim, so you do like rock music, right? So can you do a score for us? And I'm like, I don't know how to do a score. And I took this like crash course online of music theory. I don't know. It was like literally, what was it? Like 38 hours crash course or something. Like I paid like $30 for it. And yeah, that thing like definitely opened my eyes on certain things. Like, when you play metal and, rock music, it's, there's a lot of like complicated, passages and stuff. And I mean, I know how to play them, but I never really understood like, the background behind it.
how it's built. Yeah.
Yeah, how it's built. But after that little crash course, it's just like opened my eyes. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah,
So,
when I was taking piano lessons, it's pretty normal for the piano teachers to have you learn, or to have you do like a music theory book along with the piano lessons, and I never did it. Like it was always blank every week. But then when I got into college, I kind of liked it actually. I thought it was kind of fun, and yeah, I got A's all the way through.
no, that's
And
good. That's
for
good.
the last level, because for it kind of depends on the school, but usually there's like 4 different classes you have to take, like theory 1, theory 2, theory 3, theory 4, and some schools will even have theory 5. In my 4th level in our school, which was the last one, I passed with a grade of 120% or something like that.
Oh wow, that's nice.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I mean, what? Oh no, I'll let you go.
Oh, you were. I used to teach a supplemental theory class, and
Yeah.
you used to show up to that.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
that was a fun class. Yeah, I'm glad that you were the teacher for that, because I felt like I learned like more in that class than I did in the actual class with the actual with the main instructor.
Yeah. So like, okay, so you got theory 5. Like what do you learn there? Like, what's like the most advanced like theory class? That's cool.
I think we had probably the same instructor. Did you have Brian for your last theory class?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so it was mainly a contemporary composition class where you learn the techniques to like 12-tone rows. You learn hexachordal combinatoriality, and you learn how to compose like Debussy. You compose like Bartok, and you learn how to analyze sets and compose with sets. So it's a hefty composition class, but it's all it's throwing a whole lot of post-tonal theory into half a semester. It's nothing quite like grad school theory. If you ever take grad school theory, you focus maybe only like on 30, 40 years, and you go really hard on those composers.
Oh wow.
And I think I took a Debussy to 1930 class for grad school, and that was some really intense music theory, because you had to go through the impressionist stuff, the pre 12-tone stuff where everyone was just crazy atonal, and then you had to go back to where people wanted to be tonal again, but then didn't make sense with why they were writing chord stuff. And that was a seminar, so it was mainly read 1,000 pages between now and next week and figure to talk about it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go.
Oh, okay. My theory class in grad school was pretty rough. It was really like all these obscure things. It was a lot about we talked a lot about structure and how pieces were structured, or how they're not structured, I guess, because it gets really tricky when you get into like the romantic times with like Chopin and stuff. Like there's structure there, but it's really hard to see it, and it's kind of like, you don't know for sure unless you were able to talk to the composer himself, like if this was actually what he had in mind. It was a lot of structure, a lot of labeling things, like this is section A, this is section A prime, this is section B prime, this is some other random thing that doesn't belong in these A or B's. That's how it was for me.
I remember my talking about like sections in work. So I worked on a film called Remnants, and we did like a little orchestra. It was a short film, but we were hired an orchestra for it. And I remember like I've done maybe like 5 or 6 films prior to that, and I never thought of like pieces, having different sections. But like when you do like orchestral work, you have so many different sections, section A15, A16, whatever, like, you have to break down the score. And I remember like it was like the most tedious thing. I'm like, oh man, because I have to like, when I write music, I just go by, what is like by my feeling, I guess. Like whatever feels good to the picture, I'll just do it. But then like when I was doing the whole like orchestration stuff, I was just like, man, like this is so much work. I think it took me longer to prepare, the score for like actual orchestral recording, compared to like actually working on the score, like composing the score.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, yeah. So I guess like, yeah, like orchestrators, respect. That's a lot of work, yeah. It's just like, man.
Orchestration without the composition does not seem like it would be very fun.
Yeah.
But some people take those jobs and they like them and they're happy. So what I noticed about talking about form, especially like in grad school, is it didn't make composing easier for me, but it made finishing pieces easier. Because once I had a better understanding of how form works and how everyone else used it, it allowed me to get to the point where, okay, here's the inspiration. The inspiration gives you only so much of music. And when the inspiration runs out, you are either the type of composer that moves on to a new project or the composer that pushes through and finishes and makes something great. Mm-hmm. And it really wasn't until I was in grad school that I started finishing everything. If I started a piece, there was a reason that I started it and I have to finish it. Mm-hmm. And, instead of just sitting there thinking, all right, I have no idea what to do next, I'd say, okay, what did Brahms do in this situation? Mm-hmm. And, not copy him exactly, but I can say, okay, I'm going to take his idea and I'm going to start going in that direction. I'm going to allow my own musical voice to take me where I need to go when I need to move. Mm-hmm. But, this form worked for a lot of people for a lot of years. We don't have to stop using it now just because people say you should try something new. You can start there and allow yourself to drift. And even when I'm writing, game music, there's a lot of forms that were used in the classical period, especially with constructing melodies that are perfect for using for game music. They have like phrases, it's called an antecedent and then a consequent, and it's like how these phrases respond to each other, how do they modulate and move. Once you start understanding that and the way Mozart did it, writing melodies is super. It really is. A lot of people complain about it. What I usually do is I just think about like how Mozart did it, think about his form of his melodic material, have my chords, and I hit record and I improvise over it.
Yeah, yeah.
90% of the time, my melodies are good enough and just need a couple tweaks. So I vote for study form and let it become a part of who you are. Because when it's a part of who you are, then you can use it. But if you're not really understanding it yet, it's going to feel like you're forcing it. So.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like for my writing process, I kind of, when I first start a piece, I kind of I froze up. Remember I warned you about that, how Zoom will always freeze up for me. I'll have to restart at some point. But I'll finish what I'm gonna say. When I first start writing a piece, I first, but then when I actually need to finish the piece, then I kind of need to start thinking, okay, what have I done, and then how can I structure the stuff that I wrote? Like, how can I structure that into like a form, a bigger work? So. So I start writing by ear first. I pick out, or I kind of look at, I kind of analyze what I wrote, and then I take that and I build the rest of the piece out of that. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like for me in my early work, I was using kind of like all the bands that I was influenced by when I was a kid. Like using like little pieces from those bands and like from those composers, you know, like in my music right now. So, you know, a lot of people say like, you know, it's like I've had a long conversation with this one composer that says like he's doing this abstract music mostly, so he's always doing like something new and stuff. And he says that when you use kind of like music from people that you are influenced by, you're like copying them, but you're not really copying them. You're just taking that knowledge, like you're the background information in your head, you know,
Exactly.
and you just use it to your advantage. So I feel like every composer has their own, you know, style, and that style is like, I would say like 50-60% is based on what you're influenced by, like what music you like, what music you listen to.
Yeah.
And like combination of all these different genres, that's what makes the style. And then the other 40% is just your unique, what is it, like melodic, you know, style, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're working in media, like we're doing, you know, movies, TV, video games,
Mhm.
we don't really have the freedom that a lot of composers have in the just pure art world.
Oh yeah,
Because,
yeah.
you know, they can create their own language, and they can create a unique language for every piece of music that they do. That's I got a master's in composition, and that's what we did. But when you're working in media, you have to be able to communicate to the audience, and you have to be able to relate to them. And when you do that, you have to be able to bring that language that has been used, you know, since what, the 1500s, that it really started having a foundation. Because if not, we're going to put a piece of music in front of someone and say, this is supposed to sound happy, and they're going to hear it and say, well, that sounds like a horror movie. It's usually everyone's response to contemporary music, like it sounds like a scary movie.
Yeah.
But when we're studying other composers and we're listening to each other and we're absorbing the material, we're absorbing the language. Especially someone, you know, maybe like John Williams, where the language is so far known across the world. You know, Star Wars is supposed to be the most most recognized piece of music in the world. So if that's a language, that's a language people relate to, why would you go against that if you want to relate to people?
Yeah, yeah.
So allow yourself to absorb what came before you. Make it part of who you are.
Yeah.
Then, like you said, you have that 40% to make it your own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally agree. Although, yeah, I feel like I don't know what's your experience, guys, is with this, but like for me, every time I compose music for like a film or like TV series or something, I would do something that's like a little bit complicated. Something like, you know, like John Williams' music is super complicated. You think about it, it's very recognizable, but it's hell of a complicated, you know, compared to like the let's see, oh sorry, yeah, like comparing to like the modern scores where it's just like one note, like one drone thing moving. So anyway, so I would do like this complicated piece of music for a film or something, and I would always get the same note, and people are saying like producers would say, hey, can you make it more simpler? Can you just make it like more, you know, like super simple, like just like 2 instruments, like 3 instruments, that's it. And it kind of pisses me off sometimes because it's like, you're like, why would you want to, you know, like it makes sense for the scene, but I guess people want to dumb it down for the audience so more people can relate to it.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is a musician, you know. But like, I kind of miss the old days where, you know, when John Williams would do this like crazy scores. I mean, they still do the complicated scores for like Disney movies still, you know, where it's like a lot of orchestra happening.
Yeah.
But I feel like all the modern movies, it's all the same thing. It's like drones.
Yeah, a lot of minimalist-y stuff.
Yeah, and it sounds like it kind of, I don't know, like for me it sounds a little boring, I guess, and repetitive. You know, like every time you watch a documentary series on Netflix these days, it's always the same thing. It's always just like, yeah, it's just like it doesn't matter what documentary it is. I feel it's like it's always the same thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean it you know, it does work well for the film. So, but yeah, but as like a standalone piece, you know, it doesn't really stand out.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. But also, I feel like a little more complicated. Like not necessarily complicated, but just more stuff in music can
Yeah.
still work for the film.
So
You
a
know.
lot of these people that are, if you're working for a scoring company or you're a
Mhm.
scoring company that's working on several films or a whole TV series or even like several Netflix series at the same time, you're not really looking for quality. You're looking to get the job done at a level that's expected
Mhm.
so you can move on to the next job because you're looking at, at this point you're just putting out an output of
Yeah.
just assets that people can use. This is good enough, move on. This is good enough, moving on. And so when I did my master's, I studied with the film score composer.
Hmm.
His name is Ltd and first of all, every time I brought something in, he said it was too complicated.
Yeah.
Every single time. But he would tell me that when he'd be working with some on a film that he had, you have to write 3 hours of music
Hmm.
in 2 weeks,
Oh
or
yeah,
for a
I've been
3 hour
there.
film in 2 weeks, and
Yep.
you don't have time to make it the most incredible thing in the world at that point. And maybe you do if you have a whole team, but not if you're doing it on your own. At that point, you're getting 300 grand, right? A movie in
Hmm.
3 weeks. You're gonna do it to the best of your capabilities, but it's not going to be a John Williams score.
Yeah. I remember I did a 2.5 hour film where they wanted I think it was like 75 minutes of music done in 1 week.
Wow.
Yikes.
Yeah, so I used a lot of drones,
Yeah.
lots of evolution drones. Like one of those, like you just press a note and you mess with the modulation a little bit, and it sounds a little different. You know, it's like the easiest thing to do, but it just works. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be doing it. Like it sounds horrible on its own. Like when you listen to it, it's just like noise, but it works for the film.
Hmm.
Yeah, did a lot of I used a lot of loops and stuff from I think it's from Heaviosity Damage. I think they have like a bunch of like percussion loops.
Hmm.
And what you do is just like you use that and put like phaser and flanger on it, or I don't know, like filter or something, and it just changes a little bit, but it's enough, and you can keep doing it for 5 minutes straight, like the same loop. And I remember like I did it, like it took me 2 minutes to do the 5 minute loop, literally, because you just copy paste and just change the modulation in the DAW. And then and then the producers were like, because I sent them that like right away, like they're sending me a scene, and I sent them the score back in like 10 minutes, and they're like, how did you do that? Like, did you play that live? Like how did you have it like ready already? Like, what the hell? Actually, I have a funny story also. So I worked on a Netflix movie once, and I'm not gonna call out the name of the producer, obviously, but like, so what was happening? So I wrote the score. There was one cue where producer basically sent me an email. He's like, "Hey, you know what? Like, I don't really feel this cue. Can you make it more blue?" I'm like, okay. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, make it blue, so make it sadder, I guess. So I change it, and he's like, nah, you know what? Like, I'm not feeling it. So what I do is I'm thinking like, okay, this guy probably doesn't know what he's talking about. So what I do is I send him the original cue back, like on the third email, like the original one, and then he's like, oh, I like this one. This one works. I'm like, okay, good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder though what he meant by blue.
Oh, I asked him so many times, and he just wouldn't answer. I think it's more like a power trip. Sometimes they do that stuff. You know how like you have long email strings,
Yeah.
and then so I'm mostly speaking with the director because he has like the most input. And sometimes producers jump in and they just put their little 2 cents in there just to put their 2 cents in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what it was. He just wanted to be a part of the email string. And me and the director, we were laughing at it because the director like cut me up right away. Like he called me up. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Like it's the same cue. Like he's gonna flip out. I'm like, don't worry about it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, and we're still laughing about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So you guys are, Ryan. So you told me like you have you started a little video game scoring sort of company, right?
Yeah. Yeah, me and Justino, we yeah, since we kind of graduated like with our master's degree kind of at the same time, although 1 year apart, but kind of at the same time, we thought, why not try to start like a video game company called Prime Game Sound.
All right.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress kind of company. Right right now we're writing music for like for game asset packs, and we're putting those on like itch and game dev market.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're participating in a lot of game jams. Yeah, those are a lot of fun.
Yeah. Is that the ones like the game challenges or something?
No, it's
That's different.
a game jam is just you create a game in a short amount of time. Like you usually it's like a week.
Oh, okay.
Everyone tries to get a game done in like a week or so. Yeah, so those are pretty fun to participate in. It's cool to see, a mostly finished game like in just 1 week.
I mean, that's awesome. If y'all can finish a game in 1 week, that's good.
Yeah, I mean it's it's simple games, but still it's pretty cool to see it put together in such a short amount of time.
That's cool. Like I'm still trying to get into what do you call it, like mainstream gaming scoring. I mean, I've done like mobile games where it's literally people reach out to me and they're like, hey, we have this mobile game, and can you just do like 5-minute loopable music or something? I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, I can do it. And usually they just want like oldies, kind of like 80s style, that like Space Invaders. I don't know, like this is like a weird kind of like 8-bit scores. Yeah. Like that's mostly that. But I mean, I had an opportunity to. You guys know the game Cyberpunk 2077? Yes, the one that's.
We did a Cyberpunk game a couple days ago. So
really,
or a couple weeks ago, and so at least I was studying as much Cyberpunk as I could find, and that was probably the #1 Cyberpunk thing that came.
Yeah. So if you guys watch the trailer for Cyberpunk 2077, I have a whole 5 seconds of my music in there.
Nice.
So I had like a little opportunity to talk to them, and I became buddies with the audio engineer that works for that. And I don't know, like I'm still trying to get into it, but it's like it's such a what do you call it? Like it's such a tight little world. I thought like film composing is tight work, but like nah, video game music is even tighter. It's just like, it's all, if you look at it, all the AAA games, they're all composed by like 20 composers,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it's like a weirdest thing. And if you want to get into it, you have to be an assistant to one of these composers. Yeah, actually talking about it, my friend Nuno Malo, he's actually my neighbor. Like he lives like down a block, and he's a composer. He just did music for NBA. What is it called? 2020? No, 2K, whatever. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that NBA game that just came out like a couple months ago. And I was talking to him about it, like how his experience was, and he said like that was the most intense job that he ever got, just because of how much. It's like a simple, I mean, not simple, obviously, but it's like basketball game. So there's not a lot of storyline happening, but he was scoring it as a movie, but also like you had to do so many different variations of the same different cue because like that game has, so many different, what do you call them, outcomes. And every time like music changes, and he had to learn the software called what is it called? WeWise?
WWise, yeah.
The WWise, yeah, that thing. Do you guys know that software?
No, of it.
Yeah, I've played in it a little, but
Yeah. I downloaded it, and I don't know, I opened it up, and it's like, it's like opening a new DAW. It looks familiar in a way, but also like you're like I'm lost. Like, I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed with the in the game music world. First of all, a lot of like indie gamer or indie developers, they tend to be like scared off by people who write orchestral music. And
yeah.
I tend to specialize in like really big orchestra scores. And so like when they talk to me like, hey, what does it cost to do a track? Let's start talking, send me some demo stuff, and I'll send them demo stuff, and they'd be like, I don't think I can afford you. And then they just disappear. And I was like, well, we haven't even talked about rates yet.
Yeah.
And so there's another thing that I noticed too is it doesn't really matter how great the composer is. Once the composer's in with a development company, they usually fall in love with that composer and they fight for them till the end.
Yeah.
And so a lot of companies won't change composers. They're going to stick to the same composer they have. Even if they're like, sometimes I hear some music in some of these games that's just not great. But there's it's kind of, a lot of us like, oh, this is my friend. Maybe we went to high school together or something, and we're going to stick with him as a composer. So there's a whole lot of community in there, which is great. It's just when you're trying to break in,
I know, it's super tough.
Super tough.
Yeah.
I know, particularly with the music of Ryan and myself, we've been doing this long enough that we're not worried about quality anymore. We just have to get in and get those gigs and hopefully find people who will vouch for us. And in the jam world, there's tons of people who are like, do our game this week. We love your music. Do our game. It's like, well, I can't do 5 games if none of you guys are paying.
Yeah.
But I still see the same type of community that'll vouch for you, that'll stick with you, that'll say, hey, this guy's great. But in a jam community, it's different than an actual game.
Yeah.
They make it money. Which you don't want to know how much stupid loans I have, but it's a lot. Gotta pay them off somehow.
Yeah, student loans suck.
I think it's all about making, friends.
Yeah. I mean, that's how my film composing career is. I mean, I keep working for the same people because they keep having me back. And it's all about, if you're, you just have to be comfortable with people that you work with, and they have to be comfortable with you. They have to like you to be able to work together. So that's like my thing. Every time I speak to composers that are trying to like break into the like film composing world, I always say like, don't be a dick. Just be nice, be a little cool, but also like stand your ground a little bit too, but not too much.
Yeah.
Like be more like malleable. If somebody tells you that the cue doesn't work or like your music sucks, just listen to it, take it as it is and change it up a little bit and then try again. Like, because a lot of people, composers, we all have little egos in the beginning. Like when we all start working. I mean, I had an ego too. Like, I'm like, what do you mean my music is not good? But now I'm like, yeah, like it sucks, whatever. Let me just redo it. Like, I don't know, I get used to it. But like, yeah, it takes a lot to get used to like this like criticism that is not necessarily constructive criticism, but it's just like a straight up like your music sucks, like that kind of criticism. It takes a while to get used to it. Yeah.
That'd be pretty rough.
It is rough, yeah. I mean, I remember like my first score was okay, but my second score, I did a short film. Yeah, like that director just didn't like my stuff at all.
Oh. Yeah,
and I remember feeling so bad. Like I was just like literally not sleeping because I'm like, what do you mean you don't like my music? But I tried so much, man. Like, what do you mean? But eventually, yeah, like after talking and communicating with him, we got on the same page, and then I'm like, oh, so that's how you're supposed to do the score again, and then he liked it. So it's all about like communication and just being, like a decent, I guess, cool human being, and then you'll like make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to find friends that I guess are already in the industry and they're like making like somewhat big stuff, Well, not necessarily big, but like something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no doubt that we're going to be okay. It's just takes time,
Yeah,
it does,
a matter of time.
Yeah. Have you guys? Okay, so I know Ryan, you told me you guys are going. You were going to like a little convention, right? Like for music composers.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping to go to PAX West, but it got canceled like a week ago or something.
Oh.
The live, the
in-person one.
Got canceled. Yeah.
Mm.
It was supposed to be in September, I think, but they've moved it to online.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm still gonna try to participate in that though.
Yeah, good luck. Hopefully something comes out of it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was gonna go to another convention too, the ASCAP Expo. I mean, I usually go every year. Well, at least I was going for the last 3 years. But yeah, this year too, like it got canceled.
Oh.
Yeah, last year I got there was like a little competition with Bear McCreary. He's a composer that did Walking Dead, a bunch of those like what do you call them? Cloverfield Lane. What else? Leonardo da Vinci series. I mean, I'm sure you know. Do you know the guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he had a little competition going. So you basically had to score a little piece of a movie that he worked on. And I remember like I got the thing. Well, my friend sent me that on Facebook, and it was due 2 days later, like when he sent it to me. So I did it really quick. I'm like, okay, like I gotta, and somehow I won the competition. So like, and I went I went on stage and we like talked about my score. There's like a whole video about it on ASCAP. It's pretty awkward because I didn't know that I was gonna win, and it was just like I wasn't ready to go on stage and talk a little bit, and I had like a couple beers at the time. As you do on conventions, because you want to loosen up a little bit. So I go on stage and it's like this most awkward, like he keeps asking me questions and I don't know how to answer them at all. Yeah, I'll probably post the video at some point just to like laugh at myself, and so internet can laugh at me too. But it's like this.
Did he ask you like anything specific about like about the piece, like, oh, what were you thinking when you did this?
Exactly.
I think those would be hard, at least for me. Those would be hard to answer, because when you write a piece that quickly, you kind of don't remember. Like,
yeah, I wasn't thinking. Yeah, I wasn't thinking at all. I was just like, man, I'm not thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And then he kept asking, like, so what do you think the character is thinking? And then also, like, I didn't watch the movie, the one that I was scoring. So I had no idea what's going on. It's like some thriller film. I forgot what it's called, but whatever. And I just like, I saw this scene. I'm like, okay, there's a guy running. There's like meat's being cut and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. So I'm just going to do like a little horror action score for it and, be done with it. And yeah, he kept asking like, so what do you think about the main character? I'm like, who is the main character? I don't know. It's like the funniest thing. But yeah, those conventions, they're usually very helpful because you meet a lot of composers and, like people that work in industry, and usually, if you're friends with them, something will come out eventually. Yeah. Let's see what else. So have you guys done any film scoring?
Justino has done a lot.
Yep.
There's I don't know what it's called. It's been on the back burner for so long. It's like a film scoring festival out of Michigan, I think, somewhere, where they pair you up with a filmmaker, and the filmmaker makes the film and they send it to you. And so this year's a little different because of COVID. So we're really not communicating as much as I've done in the past. But that's a lot of fun. They give you a limitation on what instruments you can use because they perform your score live.
Okay.
So they perform everyone's score live. And it doesn't cost anything as long as you're accepted.
Yeah.
There's always like a ton of composers. I think only like 15% of composers get to write a score. But I did some stuff at Humboldt State. It's really just like film student stuff. But that kind of stuff, it's a lot of fun. I feel like film scoring has always been a little bit more difficult for me because I tend to be the overwriter.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I just over compose everything. And most of the time what I do is I write music and then I go back and just like, all right, mute this, mute this, mute this, mute this, mute this.
Oh yeah, exactly.
All right, that works. Let's do that. Because when you're composing, you start memorizing the layers. So you're not really necessarily hearing everything that you think you're hearing. Whereas someone who's listening to it for the first time is going to hear it and think that it's just a wall of sound. I don't hear any music. So that was my biggest problem with film scoring. Is just being simple and interesting rather than like in your face and over the top the whole time, which is really easy for me to do as a composer. Trying to think of like mostly just like student stuff because I haven't really sought out as like a career in the way that I have video game music. Okay. And I've composed like I've done a lot of like classical composition, and that's what I was doing for most of my past. So it's not that I'm not interested, it's just that it hasn't been like some people wake up and they're like, I want to be a film composer today. It's what I live for. For me, it's like, oh, I want to be a game composer. I feel like it's just a whole different experience. Especially if you're part of the game development community and I think I've had 4 game ideas in the last like 2 months be made into games, which is super cool. And when people are just talking about what kind of game we should make, well, let's do this one. Okay, let's do it. And that's great as a composer to just be part of the development, seeing everything happen, everything unfold, seeing the art be created, seeing all the coders working their butts off all the time, and then just at the end playing a game. It's pretty incredible. It's having a little jet pick up people while your music's playing in the background. That's fun. I really like it. I really like that process, and I really like being part of that process. Especially as a composer, because a lot of times it only takes me like a couple of hours to write all the music, and you see the coders, 10 and 12 hours a day for a week working.
Oh yeah.
But also, I spent like years in college of working 10 hours a day to learn how to write music. So I guess it averages out a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, talking about like taking long time to write a piece, actually, sometimes like I find myself when I'm doing work for hire, like film stuff, I usually work much faster compared to when I'm just doing something for myself, like when I actually get paid to do music and I know there's a deadline, that just like triggers something in my brain to just like focus on it and just finish up the piece as fast as possible. And it usually even works much better. But then when I'm doing something for myself, like, I'm composing like a piece of music for my like solo metal, like orchestral stuff, like it takes me years to like finish something because it's just like, I just keep like, what do you call it? Like, because there's no deadline on it. I keep changing and changing stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like this right now. And then 5 months later, I open the same piece. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't sound good anymore. Let me change it now. And it's like, keep doing this thing. Like, it's just like, it never finishes. Like, weird.
Yeah, I think you kind of need to give yourself some sort of deadline as like a composer, because because you will always find something in your work to rework or to make it sound better. So if you don't give yourself a deadline, like, you kind of will never finish a piece.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's happening to me right now.
You also improve too. So then,
Yeah.
like you said, when you open up the piece, like, a few weeks later, then it doesn't sound good anymore. So then you have to, rewrite it and rework it.
Yep, exactly.
Never get done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do when I get to that point of the piece is I say, this piece is done. I have to move on.
Yeah.
Next time on my next piece, here's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way you're still producing music and you're creating music and you're finishing. Finishing is so important, because if you're not finishing, you're not going to have that reward as as an artist of creating. And also just relying on inspiration. Like, if your inspiration runs out, you have to be able to take that little bit of inspiration and put the knowledge and put the hard earned development of what you do in a piece of music to work and finish it. And I think that's what comes and takes the role when we have a deadline. When we have a deadline, we say, I'm sure you've had a crazy deadline where it's like, okay, I have to have this done by tonight. All right, let's do it. And the inspiration, it's there when you need it. You write the couple measures, and then you say, okay, take over brain and take me to the end. Because you can't just run on inspiration the whole time.
Yeah.
And when we have these pieces for ourselves that I call them art pieces, when we have these art pieces that we're writing to really express ourselves and do whatever we want, we are trying to live fully off of inspiration in that piece and not enough on the skills that we have as composers.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah.
Give yourself that deadline. You say, let's go, let's finish it, and let's say we're done on this date. If we're not done, it's too bad. Make the next piece better. Because you can think about someone like Beethoven. Okay, Beethoven wrote his first symphony. That is nowhere as good as his Ninth Symphony. Nowhere as good. But if he would have kept reworking his first symphony his whole life, which he took a long time on each one of his symphonies.
Yeah.
Compared to like Haydn, who wrote a symphony in like a month or even less, maybe even a couple weeks. Then we never would have gotten the Ninth Symphony.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
It's pretty important to finish your works, because you learn so much like through that process.
Yeah. With some of my composition students, one of the first things that always happens when I start a new student is I've been wanting. I always hear them say this: I want to write music, but I haven't been able to, and I haven't finished a piece of music, or I only finished one piece of music this last year. So I always start them off, say, all right, let's make a goal: 5 movement suite in 2 weeks. And they look at me like I'm insane. They're like, there's no way we can do that. And I say, well, we're going to, so be ready for it. And then we get to the end of that first goal, and they're like, I've never written this much music in my whole life. And it's, forcing them to, because a lot of times my students have, bachelor's degrees, or they have some background in music, or else I wouldn't give them that ridiculous, assignment. And they come out on the other end and say, wow, I didn't think I'd be able to do this. You are fully capable. It's just, you have to be able to take your skills and push through and finish, because finishing is so important. I don't know about you guys, but since the whole COVID thing hit, I've always worked my whole life. I worked on a farm, I worked picking fruit, worked security, all that stuff to pay for school. And this is the first time in my life I've never worked.
Oh, really?
During the summer to have any time off, and I wish I just had time to write music. That's always what I've always asked for. And when I was applying for doctoral programs, I said I'm only going to go to a doctoral program that's going to pay for everything, because I want time to write music. And then this COVID thing hit, and for the first time in my life, I had time to write music. And this lined up perfectly with the 21-day challenge of Video Game Music Academy. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but it's right.
Yeah, I've seen on Ryan's Instagram. Yeah, he was doing it. Yeah.
So 21 days straight of writing music, and that hit at the same time. And for the first time, I was just putting out tons of music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd wake up and I'd go straight to my computer, and I wasn't done with the day until I finished a piece of music. It was not just 4 measures they were requiring, but I had to finish a piece of music. And I ended up getting like 100 minutes of music so that during that like 21 days. And it was crazy because
that's insane.
that I don't know what that little drive was that made me say, you got to finish, but I finished. And I started getting tons and tons and tons of music. And ever since then, it's been so much easier to just finish music. And a lot of that music we're using for packs. I'm going to be selling, so we're making some money out of that stuff.
That's good. Yeah.
And this is where, I came to my own realization as my own teacher that I wasn't using those skills as a composer that I had to finish my work. Stuff like form, stuff like tonal development, stuff like melodic development, those things that you learn to do as a composition student. You're like, yeah, I'll do it to make my teacher happy, but you end up not doing it. But when you do and you put it together, you can write a piece of music and you can finish it and relatively quick. Especially using a really good DAW and good sounds, you can do that.
Yeah.
Amount of time.
Yeah. Talking about DAWs, isn't it awesome how it progressed in the last, I would say 10 years? How many contact libraries are out there? I mean, I started working as a composer in 2015. So, I mean, even I see that, like when I started, there were some libraries, they weren't perfect, but right now it's they keep getting better and better and better. And it's just it's insane, what you can do.
Yeah. Right now is, the best time to be a composer because so many tools right now. It's just insane.
Yeah, before the machines take over our jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I read the whole article about how there's people in South Korea right now, they're making basically a software that's gonna compose music for films. And it will sync up the edits, the camera edits, the scene edits, whatever, and it's just gonna sync up with the dialogue, just to go a little minimalistic on the dialogue, and then bring the music up when there's no dialogue. I mean, it'll do craziest things.
Oh, that's crazy.
And oh man, this thing is gonna take over our jobs.
So I'm curious of the end result of that. It's going to be overwhelmingly robotic. It's just when you have a mock-up that's purely VST sounds. A trained musician listens to that and says, well, it's not a real orchestra. We still need a real orchestra. So they still going to need a real composer for the best jobs, or is that really going to take over?
Well, probably, yeah. But it's I'm a big believer in AI, and I think you can kind of bring some humanization part. How in DAWs right now, even if you write pure MIDI stuff, there is always this button to humanize, and it still sounds robotic, but it's still for an untrained ear, it will sound better. Yeah. I mean, obviously for us, I mean, we always know where it's the real orchestra, where it's the fake orchestra. But I do these things where I play my scores to my friends. And I just say okay, so which one is the real orchestra? Which one is not real orchestra? And for some reason, they always think that the MIDI stuff is the real orchestra. I don't know why. Just because it sounds cleaner and it's more, processed, where the real orchestra, you have noises and stuff, yeah. So I guess, I don't know. Let's see.
People with solo piano stuff with the East-West pianos. They thought that I was the one playing the piano, but not.
What's your favorite piano library? Well, you don't really need to have one, but so you use the East-West?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Justino?
Yeah, Ryan got me using the East-West Bechstein. I'm not sure if you have the different microphone positions.
Mm-hmm.
But the up close position, the closer to the piano that you can get, it sounds really good. It's unbelievably realistic if you use the Bechstein up close. I always used the furthest away because that's what that always sounds good with strings.
Yeah.
The surround. And I didn't realize that I was doing it wrong with
Mm-hmm.
piano because the surround has so much room noise that it just sounds awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you get it as close as possible, and it sounds super realistic. But it takes, on this laptop that I'm using now, it takes like 5 minutes to load just that one sample.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Oh, wow.
But I'm hoping, I bought a new computer and I'm getting my RAM installed right now. And hoping that it's a lot faster on that one.
That's funny. Yeah. Have you guys seen my setup, my template? Or not yet?
Yeah, I remember seeing, I think, an Instagram picture that you had posted or something. I saw it at some point. It's
Yeah, I think I posted it. Yeah, I have well, right now it's like 2,100 instruments loaded up.
Wow.
And, well, it's all contact libraries. And, I mean, it's everything. So it's all, I have two computers, a server computer that holds all the libraries, and then my DAW computer that just like, you know, they're connected through a gigabit Ethernet or whatever you call it, Ethernet port, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, like that, my server usually runs 24/7, and that little server project takes about 45 minutes to load up. Something like that. But then in DAW, it's like any project just takes like a minute to just like quick, just because it's just linking to another computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's insane, like with all the new technology, like with all the new sample libraries, like what kind of stuff can you make? Like I feel sometimes that since I have such a big template for my scoring, like I get overwhelmed sometimes at, you know, since I have like so many different options. And what I've started doing recently, I started like every new project, I would go and find different like sounds that I want to use, like what kind of instruments do I want to use, and I'll delete everything else from that project. So this way, like, you know, I have to stick to these instruments, and it actually helps a little more. Yeah, like it helps you focus, and it helps you like produce music a little faster, rather than, you know, I have 25 string libraries and just like clicking on every one and seeing how this violin is going to sound with this little trumpet for this score, you know.
Yeah, I do the same thing with video game scores so that I can have the sound match each track. And so whatever synths I choose, whatever leads I choose, whatever strings I choose, just leave them there, open it up again, save it as a different file name, and just compose it. It actually makes it super duper easy.
Yeah.
Because the style's there, but you can just write new music, which first I thought it was I was cheating, but then I started thinking that it sounded too similar, but it doesn't. It just sounds like the same video game, which is what you want.
Yeah, you always have to have a overall like tonality of the piece. Yeah, I mean throughout the whole project. Yeah, I mean I used to do that mistake in my you know, like the first couple of years when I was working as a composer. I would use different libraries for different cues, and then like on their own, you know, they would sound good, but then like when you listen to like a soundtrack, like track by track, they all sound way too different. Yeah. So now I'm always keeping to the same exact instruments for different scores. And, you know, I have like a lot to choose from, so it's easier to differentiate one score from another score, you know, like from one movie to another movie. So it's not exactly the same. Yeah.
I think you kind of have to treat a soundtrack for a game or a film like almost like a different biome, if that makes any sense. Like like you don't want to have a desert lizard like in a jungle. Like it doesn't make sense. You kind of you need to treat it like as like a jungle has the jungle animals, the desert has the desert plants and animals. And then if you try mixing them, it doesn't, it sounds a little bit odd.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
It makes sense. Makes sense. Actually,
Describe it.
I was watching. Man, what film was it? Oh yeah, yeah. It's called The Lodge. It's on Hulu right now. It's like a thriller horror film, and it pissed me off so badly. So I'm not gonna spoil it to you guys. But basically, it's set in winter, and it's around Christmas, and it's a thriller film. And they used the Armenian duduk for that score, and I'm like, I was so pissed. I'm like, why are you using this? It just doesn't match the whole. I'm like, dude, duduk is more like, you're in a desert. You're more like this like Middle Eastern setting, but that's like Christmas. All white people in the winter.
Yeah.
I was so pissed. And I remember like my friend, like she was just like looking at me, and I was just so angry. I'm like, why are they using duduk? Why are they doing it? What are they doing? She's like, well, does it matter? Like, I'm like, yeah, it matters. It matters. Like, duduk doesn't belong there.
Yeah, it's kind of exactly what I meant about
Yeah.
not mixing creatures or plants that shouldn't be in certain
Settings, yeah.
Environments.
Yeah. Let's see.
Should I restart Zoom, by the way?
I mean, you can try, see if it works.
Can you make only your lips move?
What?
What's that?
Keep the face, but only move the lips.
Here, I'm gonna jump out really quick.
Okay, yeah. Do I need to re-invite you, or can you just like jump
up?
Might
have to, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. Oh. Is he out or is he not out?
No.
Okay. Let's see.
Never closed it.
Yeah. Zoom is funny. Oh, there we go. I got the message that we are prolonging the conversation more than 40 minutes. I'm like, yay. Works. You know how Zoom has the limitation for 40 minutes? Yeah. It's been happening to me like where like some days it will stop at 40 minutes, but today for some reason it just keeps going. I'm like, okay, cool.
It happens sometimes in lessons because I teach composition lessons. I have to like have my phone holding up, looking at my staff paper where that's looking at me while I'm sharing a different screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, because if it's only one-on-one, there's no time limit. Yeah. So sometimes I just want to be nice and let you keep going, I guess.
Yeah. I actually had a Zoom call with Germany last Saturday. And I remember like this was like the most, like it gave me so much headache for some reason. Like it wasn't working, like my mic wasn't working. Then my video kept like stopping. And then my client's video kept like going out and his mic kept going out. We're just like, what's going on with this Zoom thing? So I was kind of afraid that maybe like this time it would happen, but no, it's so far it's going good. Let's see. Did I invite him? All right. So invite Ryan. Let's check this. So Justino, did you grow up in California or no?
I did. So currently I'm in Porterville, which it's a fairly small farming town. So there's a lot of immigrants here, a lot of farm workers. There's a lot of Hispanic Americans. Call it Little Mexico. Yeah. So I grew up here in this town that I'm in now. And then I went up Northern California because where Ryan lives is where Humboldt State is.
Oh yeah.
There you are. For a few years, yeah. I taught elementary school music in Colorado for 5 years. Yeah. Before moving back to California.
Ryan, can you hear us? See us?
I can.
Yay! It works.
Yeah. Yeah, when it freezes up, you guys also freeze. So.
Oh, really?
I actually see you guys again.
Oh yeah.
It's just sound for so long.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, as I was saying to Christina right now, so I had a client from Germany a couple of days ago, and Zoom just kept like going in and out. Just like my video kept freezing, my mic kept like going out, and his video kept going out, and I was just like, "What's going on? Like, why is it so difficult?" And
Yeah.
it was a call at 5 in the morning my time, and I think it was like, I forgot what time it was for him. It's like daytime or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, and everyone was just like, I was just so frustrated. I'm like, man, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not down to this right now. Like,
Yeah. I teach piano lessons on Zoom right now, and it. I don't know why, but it freezes up like that every single time, and
really?
I don't know how to stop it. Like it does it both in the browser mode and
Hmm.
within the app too. So I
That's
don't know. I
weird.
just have to live with it, I guess.
Yeah. Are you using the like a webcam, or are you using the DSLR as your webcam?
I'm using a video camera,
Okay, okay.
and
So like a DSLR.
it's not a webcam.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's the issue. It could be.
Yeah. Well, I'm using a DSLR too. I think we have a similar. Oh no, you have the T3i, right? Canon.
No, I have
Or which one did you have?
a Canon EOS 50. EOS 50.
EOS 50. Okay, yeah, I have the EOS Rebel SL3.
Oh, okay.
So I guess
Well, it looks
mine is
similar.
maybe like newer or similar. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yours I think is better. Like mine's kind of the, middle range can.
I mean, it looks good. I mean, I'm looking at your video feed. It looks like nice and crisp.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Good stuff. I was gonna say something. Let me see.
I've been wanting to ask you, Tim.
Uh-huh.
Is it uncomfortable to play a 9 string guitar? Like it seems like you have to like stretch out like so much. Like,
Nah,
is that
not really.
oh
Not really. It's
really?
just like it's well, you have your six string is here, and you just have three more strings, so you just stretch your finger a little longer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's quite easy. I mean, I've been playing a 9 string for a while now. I mean, I've been playing 8 strings for like 10 years, and then I
Oh
switched to
wow.
9 strings, and yeah, it's like it's different
Yeah,
from
yeah, I
six
guess
strings.
I'm just not. I'm not used to that position. Like I don't really. I'm not really a guitarist, so
Yeah.
like when I've tried guitar, like it's uncomfortable for me to have my hand in that position.
Hmm.
I guess it's just because I'm not used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it. I mean, for me right now, if I go back to 6 string, like I'm uncomfortable with 6 strings now
Oh,
because they're like it's I don't have enough notes. They're too little for me. Like
yeah,
I just want to go like lower and lower, but obviously there's not enough notes. I'm like, oh man, like I wish I could play this and this and that, but it's like it's not enough notes. I have to like,
yeah.
what is it called?
Limit yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, 6 strings. They're not my thing anymore. Yeah. So what DAWs do you guys use?
Cubase for me.
Cubase. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I've tried um, Studio,
Hmm.
um, Studio 1, 2, and Pro Tools. But I don't know. They were okay, but I don't know. I just found Cubase to kind of fit like my workflow
Hmm.
so much better than
Hmm.
the others.
Yeah, I've been using Reason, believe it or not.
Oh
And it's
wow.
not been the best thing in the world. So yeah, everything I've produced like in the last 4 months has been with Reason.
Hmm.
And there's some pretty cool sounds with Reason.
Hmm.
And that's what my favorite thing about it is. But when you're trying to use like outside VSTs like East West Play, first of all, you can't load more than 30 samples
Oh
because you
wow.
have to load a player for each sample with Reason.
Hmm.
And so you're like your RAM gets used up super duper fast
Hmm.
because of that. And there's just not as much control with Reason over those libraries. Some of the automation just isn't there. and sometimes trying to make it sound a little bit more realistic is just, it's a pain in the butt. But I've been sticking with it because it's what I have. I did get a new computer, and I'm gonna go back to Logic. I always use Logic in school because that's what computers in school always had. So still waiting for that phone call for them to tell me my computer's ready to pick up, because I got maxed out RAM. But if you were to get it with from Apple, it's like $5,000. But if you buy the RAM separate and have it installed, you save thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
So I'm excited for that later today. Get away from Reason for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried Reason actually at some point, and I mean, it's like it has its little limitations, obviously, yeah. But yeah, I've been using Cubase for, I don't know, 7 years now. So I'm just like too used to it, and I use Pro Tools to do stems. Like I have like group tracks coming off Cubase onto another Mac Mini computer with just Pro Tools on it, my third computer. And when you deliver scores, you need to deliver stems as well for the what do you call it, music editor or whatever. And yeah, like I use Pro Tools just for that, just so they can load up the same exact project file on their end, because usually Pro Tools is like the industry standard for music editing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, like Cubase is the only DAW that can load up my template and not crash. Because when you have like 2,000 instruments in there, like most DAWs, they're just like fuck this shit, I'm out. They just crash and like they're done with it. But Cubase for some reason is just like, it's like a big muscular elephant that just can like take any, it can carry anything in the world.
I like it a lot. It'd be hard for me to change if I ever had to change. Like I like it so much. It has like everything I could ever want.
Yeah, Cubase is awesome. I've never tried Logic actually, but I mean, from what I heard, that's like mostly for people on Macs. Are you guys on Macs then? Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm a Windows guy. I don't know. I always felt like, I mean, no offense to Mac users, obviously, but I always felt like you can get more stuff for your money with PC rather than Macs.
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing, that you don't have to spend $5,000 to have your RAM installed on the Windows machine. Yeah, Windows is usually cheap, and you can make, you can build the computers yourself. It's like, I mean, that's what I do. I kind of like to have that control.
Yeah. You can add stuff. One problem right now that I'm having, since I have so many contact libraries, I'm running out of the SSD space on my computer, on my server. And I don't have any more slots for the, what do you call them, for the hard drives. Like, they're all there. Like, they're all, what do you call it, the SATA? SATA
connection.
Yeah, like I'm out of the SATA ports, and I'm like, oh man, like what am I gonna do? Like, and I just got 2 more new contact libraries, and I have no space to put them, and I don't want to delete anything either. So I'm like, man, like what am I gonna do? So I'll probably have to buy like a bigger SSD and then swap up the other one with this new one. It's just like,
Yeah, I've been running into that issue too, where especially since I've been like, since I've been creating like so much piano videos for like my YouTube, I'm quickly running out of hard drive space, and it's getting tricky. And I run on a laptop, so I have even fewer connections than you do. So it's getting tricky to figure out what to do with hard drive space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, same thing, too, with videos. Like, since I've been streaming lately, every single stream takes like 5 gigabytes or something when I'm like recording it on the computer, and it just like it adds up little by little. I'm like, man.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and then I kind of want to delete them, but then not, So I got myself a couple like backup external drives, and I'm running out of space there too. I'm like, man, like when is it gonna end?
Yeah, it's the same
So
thing
it's just
for
like
me.
constant.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I have like 3 backup drives, and they're like
Mm-hmm.
all full. Almost.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. There we go. I remember what I was talking about. So I'm actually working on this like indie VR game right now, and
Oh,
that's
nice.
yeah, and that's like a totally different experience when working on like a regular, well, 2D, image.
Yeah.
Because in VR, in Cubase, there's a thing called Omnitronics. I think that's what it's called, and it's putting your music in this like sphere thing. Like it looks like a sphere, and you can place your different tracks on like different, and then when the sphere, like when you move your head and stuff, that's when the sphere moves as well. And it's like the most interesting stuff. It took me a while to figure it out, but it's like it's a lot of fun, but also very complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and I feel like
I did a.
uh-huh.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, I tend to write simpler things for that because, like, it's just super complicated. I just put like 3, 4. Yeah, just use synths, nothing electronic. I mean, nothing orchestral, just like electronic stuff, drones and like pads and stuff like that. Just like to simple it out. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that I've written a piece before with like with that kind of like feel of like space and like the sounds move around the room.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a piece in Max MSP. Have you heard about that? It's like a programming
Max MSP
application. Yeah, it's kind of like a visual programming application, and I took this course in during my graduate degree. It was a electronic music course, and we had to present a piece like at the end of the course, and I wrote this piece for 8 speakers with ambisonics, and it was really cool to have like the sounds like move around the room, or at least it sounds that way.
Yeah,
it's super cool. Like I wish I had access to 8 speakers all the time, so then I could write that kind of stuff like all the time. But yeah, I can't afford 8.
I know it's tough. Yeah,
studio speakers.
I did a thing once where
have the room for that too.
Yeah, I did a movie where they wanted me to do the 11:1 mix. I usually do 5:1, which is 5:1 is manageable because like what I do, I have my 2 studio monitors and I have my like backup computer, just whatever monitors, and I put them behind me, and then I have a subwoofer, so that works. I can do it. But 11:1 was such a pain in the butt because obviously I don't have 11 speakers. Yeah. So I had to do the mix without, listening to it properly in 11:1, and it was just like such a pain in the ass. I remember, like, and I was working with the music editor that had 11:1, and I just kept emailing him. I was like, "Hey, dude, can you listen to this cue? Is everything like sounding good?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, there's this one note." I'm like, "Which note?" Like, like what are you talking about? Like what note? But yeah, I mean, it's same thing. Like I'll probably at some point later on get 11:1, but also like I live in an apartment, so I can't really make that much noise, and I feel like I'm already making a lot of noise with my stereo speakers,
Yeah.
And a subwoofer too, and I think like 11:1 is just gonna like get me what do you call it, like out of this place. I'm like, yeah.
Evicted.
Evicted. Yeah, there you go. That's the word.
Or the vibrations of the sound will just cause the building to collapse.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I had time when like I was when I was doing my trailer music albums last year, and trailer music has a lot of those like what do you call them, sign drops, like bass sign drops, like like that shit. Yeah, and that would like vibrate the walls so much. Yeah, that literally like my neighbors came in one day and they're like, "Dude, like we can feel that in a bathroom." I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry."
That's funny.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we probably gonna wrap it up soon, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was really nice talking to you guys. This
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was nice to finally, talk to you virtually face to face.
I know. Yeah. Virtually face to face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Justino was really, I'm really happy to meet you. I wish you guys the best of luck with the music video production. It's just, what do you call it? Video game music production company. It sounds amazing.
Nice.
Obviously, keep in touch and, every time you post anything, let me know.
Okay.
I'll listen to it.
Okay.
I'll give you my constructive criticism. I'll tell you to put more 9 strings in there.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Good talking to you guys.
Yeah.
all right. You guys have a good day. All right. Yep.
Okay. You too.
All right. Bye.
Tim.
See ya.
Bye.